God, that is bad. Oh well.
I don't worry. So Will's just spilt all the orange down his front. So
Yeah,
he's semi-conscious, aren't you, about
I
it? See, we've got a bit of a hair crisis, just to let you know. He walked in and said, I can spot that bald patch a mile away, which I need to be a bit taller.
Never be filmed from behind.
Yeah, that's quite right. You're right there. Well, I've picked up 2 Wayford strays. So there's Tom in the back who's just told me that people are asking whether he's my son, and I feel deeply upset about it. 6th of November on Thursday, we're down in London. We're at the Farm Management Conference. I've given my talk. I was second on. Nick's going on this afternoon. We're just in the lunch break now. And this is effectively a conference which is bringing people together, sort of looking at change. Nick, you are MD, aren't you?
Chief Executive these days.
Oh, CEO.
Indeed.
Oh, well, see, I'm falling behind. I'm only MD in my business.
My father once told me Chief Executive just an American version of a Managing Director. So.
You're quite right. So Nick is CEO of Velcourt. Now, Velcourt, let's just have a bit of an update. How big is Velcourt in terms of UK hectares? Because you also, am I right in saying you've got businesses abroad as well?
No, we don't. We do a bit of management and a bit of consultancy abroad, but all of
our
activity.
Principal farming is UK.
Yeah, all sort of farm management and farming activity is UK based. So we look after about 57,000 hectares.
Yeah. I mean, that's hectares, just to put that into perspective, because I was talking acres, because it makes me seem bigger, but actually you're now making me feel like a dwarf.
So it's about 140,000 acres.
Now and are you the largest of your type doing that? Because you've got obviously Century as well, they would be the equivalent, and you had originally, then we had the co-op, but the co-op sold out.
Yeah. We are in terms of businesses that directly manage the farms. Yeah. But I mean, I think the really important thing to point out, which often sort of gets lost in translation, certainly when we compare it to your business or other big farming businesses like Dyson, for example, is that what we're doing is we're managing other people's farms. So
you're putting the expertise in.
Exactly. So it's actually. So
you're not taking over and renting. You're actually
exactly that. Yeah. So it's actually 120 different farming businesses right across the UK through a mixture of fresh produce, broadacre arable, livestock. Quite a bit of dairy in the West Country.
Okay, so it's quite a broad range.
Yeah, no, it's a broad range. And then what we do is we have a team of farm managers. We've got 46 farm managers, and they oversee other people's farming assets. And then we run it not on dissimilar principles to your business, with a sort of central system, so central buying, central marketing, single machinery policy, that kind of stuff.
And where is head office?
Head office is in Hereford.
Okay, is it really?
Yeah.
Do you know, I thought you were going to say Andover for some reason. I don't know.
Well, that's where I live.
Oh, okay, okay. So it didn't move with you then?
No. So head office, and that's where the business started. Back in the late 60s.
Interesting. And who were the principals that set it up?
So it was 4 farmers who came together, anecdotally at the back of a Worshipful Company farm, of course.
All on it together.
Yeah, and they put the business together, very much based on the principle of separating out sort of ownership and operation. So how do they put the skills that they had respectively around technical, around finance, around people, around husbandry, and build a business that could not only run their own farms with greater degrees of efficiency, but then start offering those services to other farming businesses. And that's the origins, and that's what remains the principle today. Yeah.
So they were well ahead of their time at that point.
Very much so.
Contract farming didn't really come about, did it, until probably the very early 90s, somewhere in the 80s. But if they were doing this in the 60s and started to build up a scale, you have now effectively been, what are we now, 40, 60? So nearly
60 years
of being at the forefront of farm management.
Yep. Yeah, exactly that. And you've got to think about what farming looked like in those times. You were either a tenant farmer or you were a owner-occupier or landlord.
Or big estates.
Exactly. So what they did was really innovative, which is to say actually, farming husbandry, farming technology can be a discipline in itself without necessarily having to have that tied to land. So we don't rent land. We don't own land. We do.
So you're not an asset-based business like I aspire to be.
Exactly that. Yeah.
It's interesting because obviously Nick's got grey hairs. It's actually younger than me, it turns out. I did just ask him, he's 46. See, we've got a bit of a hair crisis, just to let you know. He walked in and said, I can spot that bald patch a mile away, which I need to be a bit taller.
Never be filmed from behind.
Yeah, that's quite right. You're right there. But, your career, I mean, you went to college. Did you go to Harper?
Yeah, I went to Harper, 97 to 2000.
And then you went straight into a graduate trainee program at Velcourt.
Exactly that. Yeah, leaving aside the sort of usual sort of experiment with travelling and driving farm machinery and milking cows abroad. I joined the Velcourt graduate program in 2001.
Okay, and then you've basically had a career all the way up to get yourself up to CEO.
Exactly that. Yep. So fortunate enough to work all over the UK and indeed a spell working overseas in Hungary, all in Velcourt management roles, all in agriculture, UK farming, some livestock, but principally, certainly latterly, arable, both in East Anglia, south of England, and then, as you say, moved to become farms director about 15 years ago, and then managing director and then chief executive over the course of the last sort of 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and it's quite a well-known fact in the industry that if you can get hold of a Velcourt manager that's been well trained through your system, that you're quite well placed. And that would be a problem for you as well, I'm sure, because you are putting a lot of training into people who are, one for a better word, wanted by others.
Yep, I mean, there was a period of time when both the head of Strutt and Parker and the head of Beeswax Dyson were Velcourt trained previous employees.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's something that we wrestled with throughout the whole sort of 40 years of having management development. I always come.
It's actually something to be proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always come from the philosophy is that you're far better off to have sort of good people for a short period of time than
bad people for a lifetime.
For a lifetime. So, but the reverse side of that story is that if you take those 46 farm managers, 90% of them have come through that graduate training scheme.
Interesting. And the other 10 you might have bought them
exactly.
in.
Exactly. They're guys that have come in either because we needed specific sector specialities, or it might have been a period of growth where we didn't have enough people to supply from internally. So, if you look at that profile, the fact that there are, a few dozen Velcourt trained people out doing good things in the industry who don't work for Velcourt is, if you like, just a sort of a industry bonus to the model that we've developed that gives us the skills we require. I mean, history has taught us that the sort of industry's perspective of a farm manager is perhaps slightly different than our perspective of a farm manager. We have far more trouble at times, getting people from the industry to work to our methods and work to our standards.
Than if you take them up from the bottom up.
Exactly. And then they have ownership, much like the things that you were talking about this morning in your talk. They have ownership, they have agency, they have loyalty, they understand the systems, they understand the objectives, and you can move them geographically if they're up for it. Into a new business, new part of the world, and they take those principles and those disciplines to where we might be starting a new part of the business.
I mean, object is actually quite an important thing. I mean, we are now in an extraordinary time for probably you and I have ever seen in our careers. I mean, you came in, you said 2001, 2000, I was 99, 2000, and I came straight into £57 a tonne, £65 a tonne if it got really exciting. So we've come through that period of consolidation, we've come through that machinery rationalisation, and then we've gone into a period of effectively having to create efficient businesses, haven't we?
Exactly that. Yeah.
But it's been effectively born on the back of BPS or single farm payment or whatever the name of it was at the time. And the structure of the industry has structured around that, hasn't it, in terms of first payments to landlords, etc.
Complete.
We've now gone into this period where suddenly that's been got chopped. That's out, and the profitability of farming is, in my perspective, this is the worst time of my career in terms of profitability. We're having to make quite big changes. What are the changes going to be? There is a lack of almost direction at the moment, isn't there?
Yep.
You have made an announcement as Velcourt, and as CEO is your position. It's probably the bravest decision of anybody I've seen to date in our career that stood up and said, actually, we're going to make a change, and we're going to reshape. And can we just talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the background to this, as you've articulated so well, is that 2025 is the first year for 50 years that broadacre agriculture hasn't had a default underlying support payment. Yeah. So, it's not hyperbole to say that we're operating in uncharted territory here. We've had 25-year careers in agriculture. People who've had double that have not had to operate in the environment that we are operating in today and going into. So you're absolutely right. From our perspective, this process was very much about looking forward. It was to say, okay, we're in an environment which has changed. We need to recognise that change. There's areas of the business which have struggled for traditional farming reasons over the course of the last 3 years, largely weather, market related. But there's three cost bases to any farming business. The first is the technical cost of what you're doing, whether that's producing milk or growing crops. The second aspect, given that we're a land-based business, is the cost and the access to that land and the relative returns from it. And the third aspect, as you well know, is the overhead side of it, the efficiency piece. And really what about this change is about recognising is if you take those average 3 years from 2019 to 2021 and compare that with the last 3 years, there's a £650 a hectare drop in average income, whether that's market related, weather related to yield, underlying support price. At the same time, we've got a background inflationary environment to the overheads. We can't pay people less. The machinery manufacturers keep
minimum wage going up.
Minimum wage goes up.
National
cost of
insurance.
Energy. All of that, cost of money.
Cost of living. The pressures that's bringing onto workforce.
So if you then look at the pillar that in our mind really does need to reflect the underlying profitability or the underlying productivity of the land, it's the cost to access that land. And as you say, in terms of structural change, for the last 25 years, there's been something between £70 and £100 an acre, which has been guaranteed.
Yes.
So no surprise that people who own land or people that operate land would expect that as a bare minimum.
Yes.
Because
still.
And still. But that's the point. Is that actually when you look at what the next 3, 5, 10 years looks like, that's gone. And the replacement schemes are, eminently more complicated, they're more expensive to deliver, there's less margin coming out of them.
And may not exist.
And they may well not exist, and in many circumstances don't exist if you weren't lucky enough to get your application in before March last year. So this announcement, this change, is really about saying, right, where does the risk sit? Where's the underlying profitability? What do the next 3 years look like? We've been farming for 60 years, so we get the fact that you have good years and bad years. But this is not about saying, well, we've got a bad year last year, so let's react next year to last year. This is about saying, evaluating the last 3 years, and then most importantly, casting the lens forward for the next 3 years. We're in different territory, and those agreements, that access to land, the relative productivity, the efficiencies that you can then get out of that business have to reflect that. And so our changes, the announcements that we've made, is about enabling that change.
Just to be clear, because I didn't actually say what your announcement was.
Okay.
But so I don't get it wrong, just tell us what the announcement was that you put out.
So we have served notice to about 20% of our contract farming agreements, and that relates to about 8,000 hectares across the UK, where we deem that the underlying risk or the underlying performance is out of kilter of other parts of the business of where we need it to be. And the purpose of that notice, how these things work, is that gives us 12 months to sit down with those clients and understand whether what we want and what they want in the future meet, whether there is enough enough in the pot for those two sets of objectives to work. Clearly, we sensitise that depending on what yields might look like, what the prices might look like in the future. But the purpose of serving those notices is to say, look, it's not working in a number of instances. There are very good technical and economic reasons why that's not working. It's no one's fault. These are businesses with some of the lowest costs of production in the UK, some of the best and most talented managers, some of the most interested and engaged landowners. But the reality is that
the numbers don't lie.
The numbers don't work. And the sort of definition of stupidity is doing the same thing again and
carrying on, expecting a different result,
a better result next time. So this is about us being able to sort of sit down with those guys and say, what do you want for the next 10 years? What do we want? Is there a mechanism that makes it work? There probably will be instances where we can't make that work. But that will be best for both parties. Because ultimately they may well
you've put a line in the sand, haven't you?
I mean,
but you've actually, interestingly, in it, you've done it for the industry as well. I know you're doing it for Velcourt as a business, but actually you've done something that a lot of people are too afraid to say or do anything about. You have actually, because now I get these conversations all the time, because I'm always talking about expansion. I think it's probably the first word I use when I wake up. But is that people say, well, if Velcourt can't make it pay, how are you? That's now what people are saying to me, because they perceive you as, as obviously the size that you are. And, scale, as you well know, has a positive and a negative effect in the sense that it's positive in reducing costs, but it has a perception of a negative sometimes, can't it? The smaller businesses often have a greater sort of respect than the larger ones. There is a negativity part for what you've done in the sense that it can create an unsettlement, can't it? And it's managing unsettlement because there is talk, isn't there, within the industry, crumbs, this is the big shock, it's almost like it's the realisation that you're the first person that said, look guys, the numbers don't work. And it's I'm surprised how many people are shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I have been surprised. I mean, famously in September every year, thousands of notices are served by landlords and tenants, up and down the country. Partly because it's contractual and partly because the numbers aren't working, plus or minus for either side. So, in the scheme of things in the industry, this isn't massive.
No.
But I think you're right. When an organisation with a public profile like ours says publicly, this is what we're doing, and these are the reasons why we're doing it. And whereas perhaps in the past, the industry has tried to sort of do these things sort of quietly to the side, and no one wants to.
But you're a national business.
But I think it's really important that there is a real realism and there's a real sense of understanding of the fact that change is required, and that change is really important for both parties. Because simply sort of carrying on and then sort of getting to the end of the cycle and saying, oh, by the way, there's not quite as much here as we thought there would be. Is no more beneficial for us than it is for the landowners.
I agree.
So it's just really important to have those open conversations.
But it's not actually a retraction of Velcourt's position in farming.
Not at all.
This is just re-evaluating. This is just this is good business, for a better word.
I mean, I've been in farming. You've been in farming for 25 years. The one characteristic of those 25 years is we have constantly had to adapt. We're farming today differently to how we were farming 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we were farming differently to how we were farming 10 years prior to that. This is just part of that adaptation. It's part of good business practice. Saying, what areas are performing well, and our one difference, as you alluded to earlier on, is that we're not farming off an asset base. So we've no underlying land, we've got no underlying long-term sort of rental obligations. So really, this is about making working capital work. And where we've got areas of the business where it is really resilient and showing good levels of returns. We've had a fantastic couple of years in fresh produce. That's not looking quite so rosy for next year. It's about making sure that where it's purely working capital, we're able to put that into the areas of the business that we can get good levels of return and we can grow. I mean, what we haven't, because I thought it was important to focus on the reasons why we think these changes need to happen, is that alongside that we've also taken on another 4,000 hectares of farm management this autumn.
Right.
This is not Velcourt sort of retracting from farming or farm management at all.
But that message actually, interestingly, hasn't leaked out, has it?
No, because I thought it was really important. I mean, it's certainly something we talk about internally in terms of maintaining momentum and motivation and everything else. But I didn't want the significance of what we wanted to get across in our messaging to be diluted in the fact people sort of do that sort of classic plus minus. Say, well, they're served notice on 8,000 hectares, they've taken on another 4,000 in the scheme of things.
No, you don't want to get watered down.
Yeah, I think it's, because they're very different types of arrangements.
I can proudly say that as an industry, I think we're pleased that you've highlighted this, because I think we're all keeping quiet around the corner about how bad things are. But actually, you have highlighted, we have got to change.
Yeah, I think
and if really anything, listening to this conference today, in the difference, what people are looking at, actually, we are talking about completely different subjects almost now, aren't we, to what we probably would have talked about 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I think, you're a positive guy. From my perspective, this is about making sure that we've got a vibrant industry, a profitable industry, one that as an organisation we can continue to not only deliver for our shareholders and our clients, but also for the 46 managers and the 20 young managers that we've got coming through to ensure that they've got a successful career in the future. Velcourt's not going anywhere. My vision is that like you, we continue to grow, we continue to invest in people, but we need to do that in a trading environment and a contractual environment which works. And simply sort of pretending that to use your line from earlier on, that it'll all be fine next year, as long as we sort of keep our heads down and hope for a better wheat price, is not business management. No. It may be the history of how farming has approached these sort of things, but from our perspective, it's really important that people understand why we need to change, and also crucially that we have the opportunity to enact that change before we need to, rather than after we should have done.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, well, it'd be interesting to see what happens really from now, through till next harvest, I suppose. Well, I wish you luck with it.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for taking the time to come and speak to me. I'm grateful. But happy farming.
Yeah, you too.
God, that is bad. Oh, well.
I don't worry. So Will's just spilt all the orange down his front. So he's semi-conscious, aren't you, about it? Don't worry. That's why you need a tie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Will Gemmill. So when I came into farming in 1999 and all the way through my college time from 1993 upwards, Will was the pin-up star of farming coming up through Strutt and Parker. And so Will's just chaired a session at the farm management, and you are you chairing another one?
No, that's me done for
that's
today.
That's you done. And so when I knew Will in the early days, he was with Strutt and Parker. which would be sort of one of the main four of farming advisory.
Yeah.
And now you've set up a new one, which is called Ceres Royal.
Ceres Rural.
Rural. So I always get that wrong.
Don't
Sorry.
worry.
Am I the only one?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Okay. You probably like the rural title, don't you?
Yeah, we're just definitely rural.
Rural. So Ceres, as I understand it, is actually god of wheat. Is that right?
It's the goddess. It's a lady, goddess of fertility and agriculture.
Oh, fertility.
There you go.
Right, interesting.
We thought we needed some, and we set up. It was all 8 male partners, and we thought we at least have to have some diversity and have a female goddess.
Goddess,
as,
you could all
in
worship.
The name. They could all worship.
So when did you set up Ceres? Is it a couple of years ago?
No, set up in 2020.
Yeah, that was longer than I thought.
Yeah, well, I suppose actually technically
COVID.
2021 was when we started trading. So beginning of April 2021 was when it started, and there was 20 of us originally. We have grown. The rural side is the farming aspect, the farming, and that's grown to well over 50. And then we've got a property side which does planning, development, land consultancy such as minerals waste, things like this, and that's also grown. It's now actually about the same size.
Oh, really?
As yes, we're over 110 people now.
And location-wise, where are you?
So we started up with being at Saffron Walden, Oxford, where Charlie Island's based.
Yeah.
And Norwich, and now we've also got offices in Chelmsford, Stamford, Northampton, Newbury, and Shrewsbury.
Oh, Shrewsbury.
So yeah.
Is that a recent office?
Yeah, it's probably going about 3 years, probably. Shrewsbury.
So the majority of the people, the 20 people, did the 20 people come from Strutt and Parker, or was it a mixture?
So we all originate from Strutt and Parker.
Yeah.
And so we felt it was a time. So Strutt and Parker, as a partnership, had sold to a big French bank called BNP Paribas, and culturally, I think it was a bit of a shock to the system on the farming, on the rural side. That their basis had been real estate, which was dealing with commercial property. Didn't really understand rural. We needed to operate on cloud-based systems because that's where farming's going to. They didn't. They wanted to operate off old server systems, and culturally, for us, it was right to move. And so when a lot of the youngsters that I'd recruited came and said, we would like to move, and we did our 3-year stint within BNP, a number of us decided to move and set up
It was a
Ceres.
big step for you,
because
I mean, you were man and boy, you were Strutt and Parker, weren't you?
Well, I did 5 years with Velcourt, actually. I ran their trials and open farm. But other than that, I did 26 years at Strutt and Parker.
I've just spoken to Nick Shorter, actually.
Yeah. So.
But to get to their story, I didn't appreciate actually how big Velcourt was until I was just talking to him about the scale of it, which is quite interesting. But so Strutt and Parker now does Ceres. So you're saying you've got 110 people. I don't know if you'll know this. What was the average age of Ceres now? Because historically you've got a lot of young people, haven't you?
We are young. So like I said, genuinely, I am the old boy. There is one other person who's older than me, but otherwise...
Hold on a second. Are you even 60
I've
yet?
just turned 60 last week.
just. So you're hardly the old boy of the industry, are you?
Well, I'm technically the average age of the industry, I think. But I expect the average age of, if you took across rural and property, would be mid-late 30s. So they're quite a young. That's
quite encouraging,
bunch.
isn't it, for the industry?
That's a really good, and they're all super bright, really keen, want to make a difference to the industry, which is what it should be.
And are you bringing in trainees then who are coming out of university or even in their year out?
Yeah. Well, the good thing about Clarkson's Farm, definitely with Charlie being in it, has meant that we are getting, we probably get 1 or 2 CVs a week for people who've perhaps seen from non-agricultural backgrounds. They might have done law or anything that want to get into working in agriculture. They love agriculture. So actually we're doing really well at being able to get the really good graduates in, and our model is very much based on, we don't really want to take senior lateral hires. We'd rather develop them and grow them and train them that way. And that's the model that we sort of use and give people the option. The other thing, the big difference for us within Ceres is that we've got a much wider partnership compared to someone like Strutt and Parker. It was very tight. I was an equity partner in Strutt and Parker, but it's more sometimes an element of luck than skill that always gets you there. Whereas what we wanted to do the people feel part of the business. They're an owner in the business.
Oh, so they're all buying, have the option
well,
of buying?
we get to a certain level, but we have a much wider partnership relative, and that's deliberate, and that is to encourage youngsters to stay in the business and to drive the business
loyalty
forward.
Yeah.
A bit like you were talking about, James, in what you were doing with it with
I think you can't have people just leaving, you know, because all that energy and time and the clients all got to buy in.
So it is about, you know, our business purely comes down to bright, personable people who are passionate about what they're doing. And if we've got those three skills, that we will do well, and they care about putting client first. So the big mantra, we have them really well trained. Technical excellence is what we're trying to get, and they will be, and we want them to make sure, because if the client's doing well, because if the client's doing well, we will do well as well. So that's the critical part.
I mean, we're in a time now, aren't we, where we're almost don't know where we are in a sense, and we've got to try and be more dynamic in our type of farming. So, what are you sort of thinking at your end? You know, you're going onto these farms that might have sort of basic problems that are easy to sort out, but actually, we've all got to start thinking 5 or 10 years time.
I think no doubt about it, arable has had 3 pretty torrid years, and 25 is going to be probably the toughest of those 3. 26 is not at this stage looking brilliant on the arable sector. There's other sectors actually doing pretty
quite well,
aren't
they?
Poultry, and in the last few years, dairy and veg has done very well.
Dairy looks like it's about to have a kick in it.
And what I have to remember is I go back in cycles in my time, where we go back to 22, arable had a fantastic time. You go back, but I go back to the mid-teens, arable was poor, early 2000s. The price of wheat, below £60 a tonne. So they do go through cycles. I'm hoping that for arable, we will hit a better cycle. So it'll be secular, but it's also, in these tough times, it is also the opportunity to change. And those that can make change will do well. And it's just being able to spot the opportunities, make change. Like you say, keep good people is important, but you've got to be able to cut your costs to some extent, and also drive through efficiency. And I have a client who you'll know, James, a first generation farmer, and he always says at these times, this is the time, Will, when you want to expand, because no one else can see that's the time. And actually, when he's done those expansions, they've been the right time.
Well, interestingly, a lot of big businesses, whether it's JCB or something like that, you look at the history of some of these businesses, and that is exactly what's happened, isn't it? They've had a torrid time, and they've changed what they were doing. I was reading about John Deere this morning, oddly. He moved from one area to another, and that's how they grew the business from then on. So it is just it's the ability at the moment, isn't it, to seek a challenge and to seek out the opportunity and make it happen.
I think that's exactly that. Is that if you have a culture in your, I'm not age, but often it's easier the younger you are. But if you've got that culture that you're happy to adapt and change, and have also a mindset, and that's why partly I'm quite keen on young people, because as we get older, and I like to say I've hit 60, you tend to be by default.
You seem very conscious
you do by default. You tend to become, you see issues that arise as problems if you're not careful, and you become more risk averse. Whereas if you're young, you see those same problems as challenges, and you actually want to take them on head on. And I think that's partly why farming actually having that sort of culture, but it to my mind, it is a mindset as well. So I'm not totally on an age basis, but you've got to have that mindset that you are prepared to adapt and change. And change is always, all through my career, change has always been the hardest thing to do, because you get comfortable in what you're doing and you think, well, why the hell do I want it? This seems to work. Why do I want to change it again? But you've always got to keep adapting, and that's the critical thing.
And if you were to predict 10 years' time from now, where do you think we will be as an industry when we're stood here again?
I think AI will come in and have a bigger part to play. We will be having a lot more technical data that we will be trying to ascertain. You're doing with your farms are looking at efficiency. That's definitely the model in arable. I do think there may well still be a number of farming businesses, but there will continue to be less decision makers. So like James, I expect you're aiming to double in size, you probably will get there. Then there's going to be more of that sort of situation. And I do think that's what happened in New Zealand when they took subsidies away. You get a generation change, and I do think you will see, and actually we've probably hit it a bit with the inheritance tax. People are going to have to gift, and they're going to have to talk about succession, and that may change, that people say, actually, all right, get the next generation in, because they are able to cope and adapt with tougher times. And so I do think you will see all of those things going on. And those that are prepared to embrace those challenges will do well. You've also got to, if you're lucky enough, you own your farm and you can diversify. That's brilliant. If you're a tenant, you're probably going to have to work out ways that you can earn other incomes as well.
Yeah, and length of tenancies, length of agreements, contract farming, etc. That do you think they will have to widen purely to give people the confidence to spend money?
The problem we've had a bit with the industry is that we've had a sort of short-termism, which goes with FBTs. They've been good because it has opened up land and CFAs, but actually the best of those tend to be the ones that run for a long time, because it's more likely that a tenant or the contractor in a contract farming arrangement is going to invest more into either the soils, drainage, grain storage, all of those things. So the longer we can get
their
those
own
terms,
capital.
Yeah. So the longer you can get terms like that, the better. And I think that's got to be good news. So I actually would encourage, if I was government as a policy, I'd encourage, which I know Baron Strutt was doing a ROC review, is encourage landlords to give longer tenancies, farmers to give longer contract farming agreements. That would be my view, because I think they will benefit.
And the way to balance, where do you think we're going to go? Because there's a lot of contract farming at the moment. With the tax changes, do you think that we will go more towards a rent model?
I think I expected the Labour government that they might scrap APR but not BPR. So that caught me. If we'd stayed with BPR, I think we would have seen more going contract farming arrangements. Okay. I think. There'll be some that will say, actually, it suits me to go with a tenancy. I want a fixed price. Fixed price. And they know what they're going to get. So I can see FBTs probably making a slight revival. I do think, contract farming arrangements work, particularly if you want to, okay, it's only 500,000 of BPR, but if you want to get BPR, you still, a relief, you still need to be a trading farmer.
There is an attitude of risk, isn't it? If you're not careful, if you're doing contract farming, you are using some of your own capital being a landowner.
Yeah, definitely. So it depends how much, exactly that. So what you'll remember, if you're a contract farmer in a contract farming arrangement, you are taking some of the risk, and you are, by default, using your land and capital. It's your bank account. Ultimately, you might be running it in an overdraft situation, but it's your money that's funding
and risk.
So So you've got to work that one out. Whereas an FBT, effectively, as long as the tenant doesn't go bust, you are pretty safe that you're going to get your rent year in, year out. So you have to take.
Do you think we'll get to a point that the rental agreements might go more asset-based businesses, which can afford to pay the rent even in difficult times, if we're going to go for an unstable period of incomes?
I think it depends on who the landlord is. So some landlords are very keen to encourage new generation farmers, which is good. So obviously County Council historically have been brilliant at getting young new generations in. I think if you're a landowner that wants certainty, you're probably going to go for a tenant that's got asset base behind you. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
So I think it just depends on what the landlord wants.
It's a big change. Actually, I feel pretty excited about it. I mean, I know we've got this current problem at the moment, which is pretty frightening, but I'm feeling confident we can see our way through it. I think I can say that I've been waiting for the industry to sort of change in a way, and I think it looks like it's going to be now. If there's going to be less government intervention, that might not be the worst thing. Like you used the New Zealand analogy, they would arguably not want to go back to what they had.
I think most of us would say that taking away subsidies will make sure the efficient rise to the top. It's a painful process getting there. And maybe there is perhaps support that can be done in certain different ways.
Environmental
and obviously it's going environmentalists, it's taking marginal land. But I think I would support that. For government policy, I would support that we have a clear strategy of where we're going, which is a bit uncertain. At the moment, so there's a bit of uncertainty of exactly what's happening. So people don't know whether they're in or out of environmental schemes, whether there's technology grants, whether there's grants to do various things. If there's going to be money, that's good to do that. But I do think, and the other thing that I would say to drive businesses is that, and farmers historically have hated doing it, but it's important. You see in any other industry they would do that, is benchmarking, knowing your costs, knowing how you can try and improve efficiencies. The trouble with farming is, particularly in arable, is you've got a 12-year cycle. But if you go in the poultry industry, many of these other industries, dairy, a lot of the livestock industries are much cleverer at knowing exactly what their costs are and cost of production,
and what can be achieved,
and what site, and I do think on arable
we're a long way from that.
We need to get.
That's an interesting point. Maybe we'll look to do a piece on that.
Yeah.
About actually what could be achieved.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately the thing is for a lot of arable farmers is cost production per tonne, how you can sort of keep that down, and that relates to price and yield in a lot of cases. Is the critical drivers, but then fixed costs do play their part on that. But then there is other factors that will come out there. So whether we can be encouraged and financed to cut carbon emissions in some way, you would logically think that will come back on the agenda. It's sort of dropped off a bit, but that will be something there.
Does seem like natural progression, doesn't it?
Yeah. So.
Oh, thanks, Will. I better get back to you washing your shirt now.
Yeah, it's dreadful. Look at that. I was so clean until I saw you, James. Cheers. Good to see you.
Have you dressed yourself?
That's right.
Yeah. Richard is chair of the conference, and this is your second year.
Second year as chair.
So just tell us actually what it's called and what it does.
Yeah, well, the Institute of Agricultural Management has been around for 60 years now, and 10 farmers and farm managers got together in the Café Royal in Regent Street 60 years ago, and so we need a really professional organisation that we can actually sort of support and encourage people into farm management, and there's a lot of opportunity there. So yeah, that was created 60 years ago.
But how many members are within it?
We'll be over 1,200 now. So
we've
got a whole wide range of students, bank managers, farm managers, estate directors, professionals all across the board. Yeah. So yeah, it's a great.
Because actually, there's a big age variation in the room, isn't there?
There is.
We've got young, all the way through the profile.
Absolutely. Well, we actively encourage a lot of youngsters to this. And this conference, the thing I've always liked, I've been a member since 2008.
Yeah, and that's actually a relatively modern member.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But it's been really pivotal. It's made a huge difference to my career. Yeah, meeting some really influential people.
And how often do they meet?
Well, we've got a board of trustees, so the trustees meet on a quarterly basis. Yeah, and
organisationally terms, people are paying a membership to join.
That's right, membership to join.
Do you have to have people to? Can anybody join?
Anybody can join. There's different levels of grading that you can join. So there's aspirations to be able to move up to a professional and a fellow member as your career progresses. So loads of opportunity. But what it is, it's inclusive of all, and that's what I love about it.
Okay, interesting.
It brings all the youngsters in. You'll have MDs of large farming companies sat next to students that have come from universities and colleges.
But it isn't just actually doing an annual conference, is it? You have actually got a training course.
Yeah, we've got a farm management skills programme, which is on from the 24th of November for 5 days. And it's all about exploring yourself and different areas, different expertise.
You did the Worship Company Farmers one, did you?
I did the Worship Company.
So you've done both, I'm assuming?
Just the Worship Company, yeah.
Okay, so you actually haven't done this one?
No, I haven't done this one. No, but it has been very popular as it moves.
And John Allison, because the session I spoke in, he was actually pivotal, wasn't he, in providing that course?
Absolutely.
Because he actually did the Worship Company of Farmers in my year.
That's right.
He told me off, actually. I remember him telling me off. But yes.
I was the same.
Have you got to tell it off?
Yeah, 2012. So we had a great.
I think we were naughty.
Yeah, exactly.
But I wasn't alone in that, so that was okay. I wasn't alone. But today we've got 260 people? 260
people in central London.
Yeah.
Obviously, farming tough times at the minute, difficult, but actually loads of opportunity. Yeah. The agricultural colleges like Warwickshire College, I had the pleasure of going and speaking to a couple of weeks ago 40 plus Agric students.
Yeah.
You know, it's booming. You know, where there is a little bit of interest,
the
a lot of
mood is,
opportunity.
I know we've got difficult times, but the mood is not flat, is it here?
Not at all, no.
There is optimism, there is, you know, people looking at how are they going to make agriculture better, how are we going to get through this.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think the very fact that people who come to this conference also shows that, doesn't it?
It does. And it was sold out very quickly.
Yeah.
So the Institute's got a real good body.
Are you chairman next year?
Well, no, I'm chair. I finished my chairmanship now. I'm in the second year now.
Yeah.
We then, actually, there's been a big change in the Institute of Ag Management and the British Institute of Agricultural Consultants that are actually going to merge together and create a society.
What will that make you in total?
Well, that'll certainly be top end of the teams, so we'll be sort of 16 to 1,800 members.
Oh, right, okay. So
it's
a positive move forward.
Absolutely, and the main thing is to create strength and body going forward, cohesive partnerships, and actually appeal to a lot of the youngsters coming in and support all levels of the industry now, which is what we need as an industry. We need that support, and that's really crucial. So it's a really exciting time for the industry.
No, it is.
It's really good.
It feels very exciting every year.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, I know you've got to probably get back on stage in the next 3 minutes.
So really good to see you. Well done today.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate
it. Thank you. So we're just driving back from the conference, and we picked up I've picked up 2 Wafer and Strays. So there's Tom in the back who's just told me that people are asking whether he's my son, and I feel deeply upset about that.
You're upset about it?
I picked up Katie, so we've now made her the honorary mother. So she's got to get dropped back off at the Royston railway station. Tom has found out that his train actually doesn't go from Royston, so he's now going to get back out, aren't you?
Yeah.
And find a new way. So we've got to do a quick outro. I hope you found that interesting, guys, talking to Velcourt and Ceres, and also Richard, who's done the conference. And it was a great day. Went down there last night, met some interesting people, and sorry, I'm having to concentrate.
I was going to say, you nearly missed the turn.
I did, yeah, and because I'm driving in the middle of London. But and we look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Keep subscribing. I think we're...
No, hang on. This is Sunday.
Oh, is it Sunday?
Next video, where are we?
Agritechnica.
Bingo.
Yep, so on Saturday we fly out for Agritechnica, don't we? Yep. Yeah, 12 of us. Brilliant. So we'll look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.